Just a little bit of an introduction before the ladies get underway. They brought a few, as you can see, they brought a few toys from the London area where they both teach. I've got CVs for these people, and they've done a whole lot of stuff. I got tired reading the list of all the accomplishments. But they're heavily involved in the robotics, trying to, they run robotics teams, they've been in international competitions, etc., etc., and they certainly are setting a nice example for the rest of us who are maybe not quite there yet, getting past the flip phone. Like I'm 80 years old, so. But I want to say one thing. Each year, just so you know, each year what we do is we go through the list of submissions, and then we identify ones that we think are really good ideas to share with others. And they're taken from all the submissions, and we bump them up into what we call featured speakers, so that it's kind of an honor to be lifted out of the great number of people who submitted, and they were identified as people who've got a lot to say and a lot to show us in terms of new ideas in teaching and so forth. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I could, as I say, I got tired reading the CVs, but I think you want to hear the ladies, Michelle and her partner, Kathy. So I'll turn it over to you. Go for it.
All right. I'm Kathy Seaboat. I'm a chemist. This is Michelle Macero. She's a visual artist. That's Cameron, who's a student we just brought in. And we're here, obviously, to talk to you about robotics.
So STEAM-powered STEM is our catchphrase that we came up with to describe our creative approach to STEM disciplines. Science, technology, engineering, and math are often thought about to be really concrete fields, while arts are looked at as very abstract. So the philosophy that we've embraced is that the two can work together and are equally creative fields. When they're integrated, we can create a place where innovation can thrive, and we're also achieving this at our school through competitive robotics and the Maker movement.
So the Maker movement stresses a fusion approach to standardized hobbyist technologies like woodworking, metalwork, 3D printing, CNC tools. The attitude in the makerspace is one of collaboration between teacher and learner, where the goal is to ask a question, solve a problem, and ultimately say together, let's find out. Competitive robotics, what is this? Well, we've used this let's find out makerspace attitude in developing our competitive robotics team. Competitive robotics has been around for around 15 years and has recently picked up a lot of momentum in our region in Southern Ontario. It's even available for kids as young as 5 years old. So what we do is we build 120-pound robots each year that are built to play a game. Now, depending on the objective of that year's game, we design, build, and program a robot to play it, and hopefully to play it well. So robots play 3-on-3 on a game field in front of thousands of people.
The crowds are insane, and they act like they're watching the Super Bowl. In 4 short years, we've won major awards, including the most prestigious award, the Chairman's Award, which qualified us for World Championships. We played against 600 teams from all around the globe in an NFL football stadium in front of 25,000 people.
Okay, so we did not start out this way with this grandiose 25,000 people watching us play robots. We started out really small with manageable one-day events and activities that we incorporate into our classrooms as well. We are a big fan of Science Olympics. We go to Western University every year for that. And one year our students participated in a Lego robotics event there. And they built a robot. They were so proud of it. They thought it was the coolest thing ever. It was terrible. It was terrible. They got smoked by everyone. But even though they didn't have the success they wanted, they were so pumped up with robotics. They said, what are we going to do next? We, of course, had no idea, so we asked the Googler. And we stumbled upon competitive robotics.
So when we decided to take the plunge into the big leagues after discovering FIRST Robotics, we were really, really nervous and scared. We actually weren't too sure what we had committed to, and we had a lot of fears and excuses and saw a lot of barriers to doing something like this. Our big ones, which are usually pretty common for teachers, is there's not enough time and you don't have the resources. We had so many questions surrounding these things, like, when am I going to learn this myself? There's too much curriculum to cover, my school's in the middle of nowhere, and we don't have money or equipment. So we're going to talk a little more about how we managed to break down these barriers and create a STEAM-powered STEM experience for our students, but honestly, also for ourselves.
So these are common excuses and the no resources. The first no resources slide we're going to look at is that my school has no money. So what we've compiled for you, and you can download that off of Stayo's website, is a package that contains a lot of material. One of those pieces of material is a list of grants that are available. One of the grants that we've applied for has been the Awesome Foundation grant. I'm not sure if you've heard about that foundation, but it exists in most major towns across Canada. And 10 people in the community get together, they each bring $100, and they watch you do a presentation. And your presentation is about how you would make your community more awesome. So it's pretty vague in terms of what you're supposed to do. But we went and we made a presentation, and they loved it, and that night they gave us $1,000 for our program. We were the first high school team to ever win that award, and it was almost like a Dragon's Den situation where they were quizzing us about what are you doing, and why is this awesome, and our kids pulled it off, and we had nothing to do with it, it was the kids, and they did a great job. So we have lots of different ways to find money, different grants, school boards can help. The video you're watching now is one of the more bizarre grant applications we did. When there was still a Future Shop, now Best Buy, they had a grant available through them, a technology grant. So the kids made a video explaining why we need technology. They grabbed the robot, they went to Future Shop, drove it around, picked up a laptop, drove around the store, and made a video and sent it in for the grant submission. So we didn't get it, but it was a really cool experience regardless. That's a really good learning experience for our kids. Is we apply for a lot of grants, we ask a lot of people for a lot of money, and we don't always get it, but we still keep pushing forward. And I think for our kids, that's an amazing lesson.
So oftentimes we look at our schools and we think we don't have this space, we don't have a science, a tech, and computer lab. And what we've found is that we don't actually need one. We can use places that we have available to us, the hallway in the school, Cameron's basement, the makerspace in our local community, or overseas. So building something like a Rube Goldberg and just using what you've got. You can integrate technology into that in really creative ways. We had a Lego robot, some little bits, a hex bug, all kinds of just small pieces of technology that we combined with low-tech things like a toilet paper roll and some dominoes. We actually did this overseas as well as on site in St. Thomas, and we were able to connect Rube Goldberg machines in Uganda, Africa, to our Rube Goldberg machine in St. Thomas, Ontario, through the magic of the internet. So you can see in this picture here, a tweet went through that lit up the face of the iPad, and the light sensor on the Lego robot detected it and executed the command to drive forward. So that started the reaction. So we actually tweeted from Uganda at Cameron, and his robot began the chain. His ended by hitting send on a cell phone that then vibrated in Uganda, fell in a cup, and started our chain reaction. So it was really neat to see the two connect, and we used Google Hangouts just to video it so you could watch it from both ends. It was a fantastic experience, and we had some things where we mutually used the same materials, but when we got there we realized we didn't have dominoes, so the kids made dominoes out of soap. We brought a Lego robot with us, so the kids in Uganda got to use the same equipment as the kids here. And you can do something like this in your classroom by linking to rooms that are way across the school or another school in your community. So it doesn't really need a tech lab. These kinds of things can happen anywhere. So again, no, the excuse of we don't have a science lab, a tech lab, a computer lab, it doesn't matter. You can do these things in a rural Ugandan schoolyard. So I'm pretty sure we can pull it off no matter where you are in Canada.
This is my chemistry classroom. It's certainly not a computer lab. And the kids are all gathered around one Lego robot. And you can see how engaged they are. We made a course on the ground, really low tech, out of tape and Xboxes, so the kids had to navigate the course. And everyone watched when everyone was up to perform, and they were so pumped and so positive. So it's a great experience for them to have that pride in what they've been doing.
Not having enough equipment, you don't need class sets of things. There are fantastic resources online, and we managed to run with 40 kids and 2 robots and 2 laptops, an entire robotics competition within ourselves. Because online, Bex and Lego both offer through a program called Robot C, where you can program a virtual robot that will perform just like the real robot will, and troubleshoot and test your code and all of those things without actually ever having to have your hands on the robot. So with 2 kits, we were able to have 2 groups of kids building the robot. The other 2 groups of kids are programming, and then they were able to upload their code and show it on the real deal. They knew if it was going to work because it was the identical robot. It's a great tool to teach coding. It's also great when you don't even have a robot, but it acts on screen. So they're getting that feedback that they would get from having the real thing. Dividing kids up to have kids, so we had one group of kids were laying out the obstacle course and drawing the map. And then another group of kids is writing the code or building the robot, and some of them are videotaping and documenting the process. So everybody had a role, and you were able to evaluate and see these things happening. Your classroom looks like chaos to somebody walking in, but you as the teacher are totally aware of what is actually going on and how much learning and how much cool things the kids are getting. And it also puts, you don't need to accommodate because the accommodations are happening naturally with adjusting how different kids learn because they gravitate to those different aspects and those different options. They're able to choose where they're comfortable and adjust it to fit their needs.
We don't have enough equipment. What I'm showing up on this slide right now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but it's called a Google Sheet. Google's come up with a few pieces of software that are available online for free. And the cool thing about this one, it's very similar to Excel, and it lets you share information in real time with anyone around the world that has access to your sheet. So one of the events that Michelle and I ran over the summer, in Canada, we were uploading all of our data onto the Google Sheet, and you could see in real time, Michelle's squares were pink as she was typing her data from Uganda, and all updating in real time. So it's a great way to share information with people who aren't necessarily right next door to you. And the great thing about it as well is you can use that data for graphing and just continue to provide extension activities by using it. No time. We always say there's no time, but we can try to sneak in a little bit of extra time. So this activity here is showing BristleBots. We had a bit of experience in my classroom with my grade 10s to work with little tiny robots called HexBugs. We've got some to show you a little bit later on. So as an extension, we had the kids build their own little robots similar to HexBugs. But we built them out of toothbrush heads, little vibration motors, and Google Eyes. So we ended up racing them, and we made courses for them. We timed them, graphed the data, all sorts of things. Painted with them. We actually did paint with them at a different event as well, so you can see the paint-covered ones up there. They made a really cool canvas when they were sort of moving around the paint. It was something so much fun, and we even extended it a little bit to find out where we can get these motors. So we bought a bunch from an electronics store, super cheap, I think 5 for a couple of dollars. But then the kids said, well, can we bring our cell phones in that are old and junky, because they're always vibrating in their pockets, right, during class, so they know there's a motor in there. So we brought them in, and we took them apart, and we Googled where the motor is, found it, took them out, and put them in our BristleBots. So it was a really cool opportunity for kids to take things apart, which I don't think we do very much anymore. We don't really know how anything works, because we don't ever look inside. So it's really cool for them to look inside and see what it is. So this actually ended up being the culminating task for my 2L science class.
Our event that we looked at as we can't fit it in the curriculum was an event we ran called Robo Rio. So it ran to coincide with the Rio Olympics over the summer. And we were able to integrate phys Ed curriculum, arts curriculum, science curriculum, graphing, mapping, and all kinds of other skills on the computer into one event. So the opportunity to fit it into your day is possible, and it's amazing how many curriculum expectations you can hit with one kind of holistic activity. We had kids in Colombia, Uganda, and Canada racing in 100 meters, and then using a Lego robot, scaling it down to 10 meters and competing against the robot. So we are updating this in a Google Sheet live across 3 continents. We did things like accuracy, shooting a football, and then made robots that could shoot a ball. And so we are comparing the real athletes to the robotic athletes, having them look up what's the world record, doing some math, how much faster would you have to run per meter to beat Usain Bolt? Things like that. It was. Well, not us. So it was pretty amazing seeing how you could integrate this not only into 3 different continents, but into 5, 6 different parts of your curriculum. So we had a little awards ceremony to go along with it, so it was like the real Olympics, and we broadcast that live online so the kids could see each other win awards, and it was a pretty awesome experience for everyone, and it really felt like the Olympics.
I don't know if you can see in the bottom left, that young gentleman is showing his medal off to our kids who are probably at Cameron's house doing this live. Thanks, Cam. And they were so proud to get those medals and so pumped about it. And who doesn't like to win an award, right? So it was amazing. It was an amazing one. Isolated location. This one is kind of dear to our hearts because we do live in a rural community, but we're not going to use it as a barrier. So you'll see that we've got Hour of Code here. Hour of Code, I'm sure some of you are familiar with it. It's an hour doing code. And it takes place the big sort of week of it in December. And on the map, you can see all the locations around the world where people participate. So it's a chance to get kids interested in coding. And you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to go to the big city to get instruction. You just go online and find it. So it's great for that aspect of being isolated. And here's an example of some of the programming you might learn through it. It's called Scratch. It's pretty intuitive. They're using commands to make that Flappy Bird flap. And it sounds ridiculous, but people love it. So we did one of these events at the public library, and kids as young as 4 and 5 were doing it. Their parents were like, well, that's kind of cool, I'm going to do it too. So their parents did, grandparents did. People of all ages really enjoyed that activity.
Being able to work with other people is really important to being successful in taking on big projects. And when you're in a location where you don't have that option, it can be intimidating, and you can worry about not having anyone to play with. What's the point in having a competition if you can't compete with anyone? So competing online is very much an option in how most of the competitive robotics programs are structured, as well as competing all over Canada, the United States, and the world. So there's something nearby for nearly every location in Ontario to compete. So you don't have to worry that the opportunity is limited based on your location, or that there's no help or expertise or kind of example teams or people to look to because there's someone around. And through the magic of the internet, you can always find someone to communicate. People involved in robotics are obviously super excited about it and always want to talk to you or email or Skype or answer your questions. They're excited to help you out. We had no clue when we started, and it was simply through reaching out to other communities that we were able to be successful.
Yeah, just don't be shy, someone's going to help you. Limited experience. This is a good one because this is our life, right? Yeah, limited experience. We don't know a lot about robots. We didn't anyways. And there's ways to learn about robots without it being so intimidating. So in these slides, there's a picture of a small robot called an Ozobot. And sometimes when we think of programming, we think of, I don't know why I think of this, but I think of the Matrix and all those numbers and letters and codes coming down. I'm like, I don't know how people do that. But that little Ozobot is programmed with magic markers. So you do a little path, a magic marker, and it follows it. And there's little codes that you can write down to make it go or do a turn. And you don't need a computer, you need white paper and 4 colored markers. It's amazing. And in the diagram now, there's a little robot called Edison Bot. And that one you program with barcodes. So with all these barcodes you can scan and make the robot do what you want it to do.
How much is the Ozbot report?
Ozobots are actually going way down in price. I think you can get a first edition one for around $50 now. We put together a gigantic spreadsheet for you with a bunch of robots that we know how much they cost, where you get them, what they're good for, why we love them, why we hate them. So we'll get that to you through the website as well.
We were able to reach out to our alumni. So a lot of our past students we knew through finding them on Facebook, what they went on in. We were able to say, hey, you're doing what you're doing because you got a good education at our school, so why don't you come back and help us build robots now? 3rd-year mechanical engineer, 4th-year computer programmer.
You owe us big time.
Exactly. So it was so easy to get them to come back, and every single one of them has said, I can't believe that you did this after I was gone. I can't believe that we didn't have this when I was in school. And that's been such an easy pull-in to get expertise that we do not have. And for your students, how much do they love having big kids help them? It's incredible to see and be able to step back and actually see what, kind of your teaching has progressed to in these young men and women who come back to help you. You also end up blurring that line between teacher and learner. You can actually do this without lesson planning because you're planning at the same time as you're teaching it. So you have an idea of what you're going to be doing, but you have to be comfortable learning along with the kids. They ask a question you don't know, you watch the YouTube video together. I can guarantee you're going to understand that as the teacher way quicker than they will, and then be able to repeat it back to them and explain it like you're actually teaching. And get through that new idea, that new concept, building or designing something together. We've spent so much time watching kids teach other kids by doing that, watching a student pick up on it way before even we do, and they're excited to teach you. And it's a great experience because we all know to teach a concept reinforces it, and being able to watch kids do that for you is pretty great.
We have a misconception, I think, that kids are really tech savvy, and I don't think they really are. I think they can use their phone and they can text you in the middle of class, and they can do stuff like that. But when it comes to some of the new tech, they need a helping hand, and I think that we can provide that. So this is an example of a programming called Turtle Academy, and it is so user-friendly. Forward 50, and then it goes forward 50 units. So this is a great introduction to programming that you can use, very limited experience, and you look pretty clever because you can do it too. We were talking about a really fun extension with this one to do in a drama class, or just to get some physical activity. They can model out their programming code by walking. So they can, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to turn this way, and then they can code that after they do the motion. So just get some kinesthetic involved with that as well. Scratch programming, we talked about a little bit earlier, but this is a great Scratch programming thing to do with maybe a primary junior class. It's on pieces of paper that slot together just like Scratch does, and it allows the kids to move around. Kids don't have any time to sit down in one spot for a long time, so these kids are kind of rolling around the carpet, grabbing their pieces of Scratch and putting it together and coding with paper. But there's a progression from that. Once you learn that primary with the paper and being really on the ground, you can then go to Scratch on a computer and see that, wow, what I did on the ground with my friends with the programming Scratch little pieces of paper, it's the same thing on the computer. I just get to use the mouse. Going up from that, you can use drag and drop programming. Now we brought a couple of Lego robots with us, and this is how you program them. You drag little things like motion blocks and into the window, and you program it like that. It's not always writing series of ones and zeros and letters and asterisks. Yeah, it doesn't always have to be like that. Programming is not quite as hard, perhaps, as we think it is.
So we're always worried that the kids are going to see through you and know that you don't actually know what you're talking about. But we've found that we've been able to pull from kind of unexpected backgrounds that don't have anything to do with robotics. As a landscape architect before I was ever a teacher, I had learned AutoCAD, and I had been involved in drawing graphics for several companies, never expecting to meet that again. Kids started talking about making a card game, and immediately I was like, no, we can actually do that. And it was easy to explain to them and teach them how to draw on the computer. As an art person, it's something you know how to do. So, but I didn't know one thing about card games. So we took the kids, our high school kids, to an elementary school and had the elementary school kids bring their Pokemon cards and do a workshop for the high school kids. Teach them about how do you play the game, what makes a cool card, which pictures do you like, just stuff like that. And from there we were able to actually make and publish a trading card game that we had printed in Hong Kong, and their actual trading cards. So now the kids are using that to fund their own robotics program because they've sold it all over Canada and the US to other robotics teams. It brought in the skill set of kids who wanted to do animation. They made our promo video for it. It brought in the skill set of kids who were interested in business and marketing and just even doing our accounts for that. It was so many things to so many kids that it's officially the biggest department in our robotics program now, and it's an arts-based project.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's brought a lot of kids into our program. Over 10% of our school population is on the robotics team. It's the biggest thing going. There's kids on our team who are on the football team, basketball, music, soccer, everything. But every single team, club and team at our school is represented on our robotics team, so it's all around.
Do you notice the gender?
We don't really. I think we have a few more girls than we do boys. I don't know if that's because we make them come, I don't know. But we definitely encourage anyone in our team. We've got kids of all abilities. I've got kids from my locally developed classes who are helping us build robots. And as a teacher, that is one of the most gratifying things that I have seen. Because when you think of robotics, you think, wow, this is really hard, and you have to be super academic, and I'm going to university, I'm going to be an engineer. You don't. And it's really, I think, the most inclusive club that we have in our school too, which we do crazy things with.
The kids from after making this trading card game were like, ooh, wouldn't it be cool if it was an app? And we were like, okay, well, how do you make it do? So they looked up, how do you make an app? And then last year, when Google Cardboard started kind of to become a thing that everyone was aware of, so it's a virtual reality viewer, you put your phone in, the kids were like, oh, but what if the app was in virtual reality? And like, all of this is just ridiculous, and it was just like us being like, okay, let's do it. Google it, figure it out. The kids did that. All we did was really guide them, okay, well, to do this, you're going to need to find out these things. So you're more of a guider than you are teaching them the skill required to do it.
Yeah, like the viewers, they made the viewers themselves out of AutoCAD, they designed them. But they don't know what to do with it from there. Like, well, do we cut it out with scissors? But our experience is, well, no, people can laser cut things. Why don't you call some companies and see if they laser cut cardboard? And they did. So we had a gentleman who cut all the cardboard viewers for the kids when they gave them their CAD drawings that they had done. It's amazing. Keys to success. Our keys to success, I think, are to find a friend, pick a big project, something that's a little bit scary, something that you can build or make that you're going to have an end product with, and just model your enthusiasm. Just be excited about it, and the kids are going to buy it. If they see that you're pumped up about it, they're going to get pumped up too. And you're going to get those kids in your classroom that maybe are a little bit tougher to engage and maybe think they're a little bit too cool for all the stuff that you have to say. But when they see that the rest of their peer group is working on a project that is so amazing, so techy and hands-on, that enthusiasm is contagious and those kids buy in.
The other key to success we've found is to be flexible in your process and to learn from the pros. So the engineering design process is flexible, fluid model, and it's pretty key to being successful in maker projects. And of course, we can't avoid education speak. So this translates to the whole current design thinking. And we know that this has come under tons of different aliases over the years: problem-based learning, inquiry-based learning, student-directed initiatives. Call it whatever you want, but it's STEAM at its finest. STEAM-powered STEM brings design thinking to your classroom in really authentic ways, and you can teach things that are so important that you couldn't teach with an isolated project and deliberately try to teach, like critical thinking, generating ideas, innovation, creativity, And we've used robotics as our platform and our foundation to teach those things.
STEAM-powered STEM has helped us overcome so many perceived barriers like limited time, resources, our rural location, and especially our lack of knowledge and expertise.
Robotics it's not that hard. You'll be astounded at how you can figure it out, and also how all you really need to get started to experience success is the ability to herd the kids in the right direction. And it's so much fun. You've got that to look forward to in your day, and you really do look forward to it and get excited, and you're thinking about it in your free time. It's unavoidable. STEAM-powered STEM is everything that you idealize as an educator.
Thank you. We have a bunch of toys if you want to play with them. And come and see. Cameron brought a robot with us today if you want to drive it. If you know how to use an Xbox controller, you can drive that robot.
You can fire up the Lego robots, a couple different ones. There's a primary one called WeDo. There's a primary junior one that's the NXT. We've got the virtual reality viewers, Hexbugs, Ozobots, you can try them all. And we do know the cost of everything, so feel free to ask, and the cost of registration for all of these kinds of programs.
Yeah, so we'll have it all on Stale's website probably next week. I think it's simple come out.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't be shy to come play.
That laptop. These are about
So it took, let's see, our sessions when I did it were 3 hours. How long do you think that?
A novice, someone who knows nothing.
Like what grade level?
8, 7, or 8. Yeah, if they know nothing.
They could do.
Serious?
For sure less than an hour.
Like they know.
So there's this with add-ons that build it even more, and my record's like 45 minutes to do it with the add-ons. And this basic one, I can do it like 10. So
Yeah,
obviously
you
they
can do it 10.
Yes.
How many times?
No, 30 to 40. 30 to 40 minutes for them to do, I guarantee.
And they can't mess up, or they can mess up?
They can mess up. I can, and
And
I've
I won't know
actually,
any better.
no, so the one thing I tell them when they mess up, because I had our school board and Rich came to, I was in charge of, they have a robot. So the first thing I tell them mess up is, I'll immediately get really angry and run. It's just, stop, slow down, look at it. Like the building pictures are exact, and they are to scale, right? So a lot of times when you mess up, they'll slow down, stop. Are you holding it the right way? I can tell when they're messing up, like fast. And they're like, oh, I didn't hold this right way, and there's arrows, so I didn't notice this. Right here.
So motion on floor, so it's so easy to change and adjust. Yeah, and the usually cameras and this was something we found was like